Welcome to the EPI Moment channel. Today we cover 10 disasters, 10 construction disasters that killed thousands. These failures caused absolute devastation.
Every great structure begins with hope. A bridge, a dam, a skyscraper. But throughout history, some construction projects end tragedy. Some disasters happened in seconds. Others developed over years. But every one of them left behind the same question. Could it have been prevented? Tonight, we explore 10 of the deadliest construction disasters in history. Events that changed engineering forever, and lessons written in tragedy. In 1978, workers were building one of America's largest cooling towers. The project appeared routine, but hidden dangers were already growing inside the structure. Day after day, construction moved forward. Hundreds of workers trusted the scaffolding beneath them. No one realized how close disaster had become. The tower continued growing taller. Workers climbed hundreds of feet every day. But one critical weakness remained hidden, and soon it would trigger. 51 workers lost their lives. The Willow Island disaster became one of America's deadliest construction accidents, and it changed safety regulations forever. On April 27th, disaster struck. A scaffolding failure chain reaction. Within seconds, the structure collapsed. Dozens of workers were trapped beneath concrete and steel. Long before modern skyscrapers existed, factories powered the industrial world. One of the largest was the Pemberton mill in Massachusetts. Long before modern skyscrapers existed, factories powered the industrial world. One of the largest was the Pemberton mill in Massachusetts. But the factory had been expanded beyond safe limits. Structural weaknesses were ignored, and with hundreds of people inside, the building was approaching its breaking point. Then it happened. Without warning, the structure began to collapse. Columns failed, floors gave way, and hundreds of workers were caught inside. More than a century later, another hidden design flaw would lead to tragedy. This time, inside a crowded hotel in Kansas City. Hundreds of people enjoyed an evening gathering beneath the elevated walkways. But a critical structural weakness had been overlooked during construction. At 7:05 p.m., disaster struck. The walkways collapsed without warning. 114 people were killed. Days before the disaster, warning signs began to appear. Cracks spread across walls and ceilings. Strange sounds echoed through the building. Yet business continued, and the investigators would later discover that unauthorized design changes had weakened the structure. Heavy loads exceeded original limits. Critical supports were compromised. At approximately 5:57 p.m., the building gave way. In less than 20 seconds, the worst building disasters in modern history had occurred. The collapse killed more than 500 people and injured nearly 1,000 others. The Sampoong disaster became a global warning, a reminder that ignoring structural problems can have devastating consequences. In the hills of California stood the St. Francis Dam. Built to secure water for a rapidly growing city, masterpiece of engineering. Hidden beneath, dangerous weaknesses were developing. Warning signs began appearing before the disaster. Small leaks, unexpected cracks, and growing concerns about the stability of the surrounding rock. Yet, just before midnight, the dam collapsed. Billions of gallons of water surged through the canyon. Communities within minutes. The flood became one of the deadliest engineering failures.
Nearly a century later, another tragedy would expose the dangers of ignoring structural warnings. A commercial building known as Rana Plaza. Thousands of workers arrived for another ordinary day.
The day before the collapse, major cracks had been discovered. Yet work continued. The next morning, the structure failed completely. More than 1,100 people lost their lives.
In 1986, a routine safety test began, but hidden flaws and operational mistakes created conditions for disaster. Within hours, history would change forever.
As the test continued, reactor conditions became increasingly dangerous. Power levels fluctuated, safety systems were compromised. The situation was rapidly spiraling toward catastrophe.
At 1:23 a.m., the reactor exploded. A fire released radioactive material into the atmosphere, and one of the worst technical disasters in human history had begun.
In August 1975, unprecedented rainfall struck central China. Pressure increased across multiple dams, and a disaster of unimaginable scale was approaching.
When the Banqiao Dam failed, the disaster caused one of the dead, and for countless people, there was no escape.
The destruction did not end when the dam collapsed. Entire towns disappeared beneath floodwaters. Transportation networks were destroyed. The Banqiao disaster affected millions of lives, but historians agree on than deadliest ever recorded. A tragedy measured not in hundreds of thousands. In northern Italy, engineers built one of the tallest dams in the world. The structure itself was strong, but the danger came from somewhere unexpected, the mountain beside it. On October 9, 1963, millions of cubic meters of rock plunged into the reservoir, lost their lives within minutes. At number 1 remains the Banqiao catastrophe. Not simply because of a single dam failure. Multiple dams failed. Floodwaters spread across vast regions, and behind every statistic was a human story. Families separated, communities destroyed, and lives changed forever. These disasters were not just engineering failures. The lessons learned from these catastrophes transformed engineering around the world. Building codes became stronger, safety inspections became stricter, and new technologies helped. Today, every major construction project benefits from lessons written in history. Many modern safety standards exist because others paid a terrible price before them. There are design flaws hidden inside massive structures. These disasters remind us that instant vigilance, because even the smallest mistake can have enormous consequences.